Welcome to another episode of Inside the Headset with the Palestine High School head football coach Kyle Ralph. I am special teams coordinator Wes Anderson. Coach, talking about probably one of my favorite games that we've been a part of in my time here, the semi-state game from 2018 against Michigan City, which we were just talking before we started recording here that this first half is probably going to be a little bit painful here. We really did not play very well here in this first half, and they provided us with some major challenges that we'll talk about as this goes on here. A game that we end up winning in the second half, although we had the lead going in the locker room, but I think before we start talking about kind of the intricacies of the opponents, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the week provides when you play on Saturday, because this was a really unusual one. But we played this game on Saturday because Michigan City had to travel to us, and they couldn't get there on a Friday night. So this was a Saturday game, I think 4:00. Which not only is it a weird day, but it's a really weird time as well. So we've talked briefly before about, our kids, we want them to be creatures of habit and we want them to be comfortable in the routine. And there's a lot that goes into playing on Saturday other than just let's have another day of practice. So let's start there, and then we'll start talking about what actually happened on Saturday afternoon at 4:00.
Well, I think one of the big positives that at least came from this was the 5A championship game in this particular year, the way that they flip-flop it. We ended up being the Saturday game. So in that regard, it didn't hurt us that much, just because it kind of allowed us to essentially have appropriate rest time and recovery from, this effort you're about to see, going into then what would be another Saturday game. I think it would have been a lot more difficult had we had to play the Friday night game in the state championship. It would have put us, quote unquote, a day behind. So there was at least a little bit of comfort in that if going into it, if we won this game, we would essentially get 2 weeks to stay in the same rhythm here. And that was a bonus. I think another positive was having played at St. X and then coached at St. X. I was accustomed to playing games on Saturdays in a weird rhythm because we had to do that stuff every once in a while. They, even when I was there, and their schedule has gotten, I would say, a little bit broader since then. But when I was there, we were one of the first teams that were starting to play kind of a Midwestern schedule, I would say. We were playing teams out of Pennsylvania and stuff like that. We would play teams from way up in Cleveland. And, every once in a while, you go from a Friday and then the next week you're playing a team from Cleveland, and you're going to end up having to play them on a Saturday or Saturday afternoon. And I remember that as a player and kind of what our coaches had done in regards to that. So that, I think that had helped. And then as a coach there, they were always playing, a Friday, a Saturday, a Saturday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Friday. So I really had at least had some experience in how to do these things. And I think we had done it once already. We played Castle in 2015 on a Saturday night, night-ish, not night, but night-ish in the semi-state. So I at least had something to fall back on, just in regards to, this is how to approach this thing. But, I think the big thing was we came into film the Saturday before this game and pretty much told the kids, guys, look, this is going to be the schedule. Here's how we're going to approach this, and really gave them kind of the roadmap for the week so that there were no surprises for them. And that way, mentally, they knew going in, okay, we're going to push the, X back, and then the normal X has become Y, and then Y has become Z. So, just giving them a systematic approach to the week so there were no surprises, I think that helped, significantly. But there can be some challenges that throw your kids off. And I think one thing that was really important to me when we did this for the first time back in 15 and always as a player, a lot of people see a week like this as like, we've got an extra day, like let's jam another big practice in there and get super prepared. Boy, does that backfire sometimes, because your kids' bodies and their legs and their recovery ability has become so accustomed to the rhythm of those practices like we do them, and a lot of times kind of jamming another full practice in there almost overloads, especially this late in the season, almost overloads their body to a degree, and you don't want that to happen. So, we really try to just keep them on the normal rhythm, but essentially push everything back an entire day. And it's proved to be pretty good for us. It may not be the best thing for everybody, but, again, for us, that's how we've gone about it, and that's what's worked for us. And I really thought we had a great week of practice in this week, all that stuff being said. So, yeah.
All right, well, let's get her going here, because I know we've got a lot of scheme stuff that I want to touch on before we get rolling here. So let's do that. This is going to be a touchback here. This is they had a really good kicker, really big leg. He's going to miss a field goal in this game, but I think it's the same kid. If memory serves, it was the same kid that kicked off and did the extra points. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what we thought we might get, and then explain what we do get.
Oh man. God, you're right. I may not even want to talk about this first half. So this was one of the more unique things that we have probably seen, not in general scheme, but just essentially their overall commitment to playing cover zero and just essentially an unrelenting philosophy to ever come out of it. Now it's interesting because in the week after this, we win this game. So the week after this, we go play Decatur, who, when I turned the tape on, it was almost the exact same thing, but from a different defensive structure. So there were a couple things that we thought based on the film we'd had, and some of it was hard. Again, so it's actually kind of interesting. So we just finished up that New Prairie game yesterday, and these two teams are from at least the same general area, and they play a lot of the same teams on a yearly basis. And most of those teams in that area are very, very, very heavy run teams. A couple of them had started to transition into like spread or actually air raid stuff, but really hadn't had very much success with it. A lot of the teams up there are extremely heavy runs. So some of the tape that we got from their playoff games and stuff like that we had traded with them really was not super helpful because they really hadn't played a lot of teams like us. There were maybe, I don't know, one or two games on their schedule where they even had played a team that was similar to us in philosophy, that kind of executed the way that we did. So we kind of took a little bit of a guess in regards to how they thought they would play us. They really hadn't played, especially anybody quite like Charlie yet. And so, figuring out what their plan was and how to try to stop him. We kind of had a couple a couple ideas, and this was one of them. Maybe not exclusively as far as how we drew it up with the kids as far as the scout stuff was concerned, but the way that they choose to defend us was one of the possibilities that we had discussed. And the hardest part about these guys, and then what they choose to do here defensively, which is a really good, they got a great staff, so a really good choice. This was actually in our scouting report for the boys, and we talked to them about this pretty extensively, is this Michigan City team was extremely talented. On defense alone here, the kid at the bottom that's the really tall kid standing up, he's a major Power 5 recruit. The kid that's inside of him, I don't know where he ended up going. He's only a junior in this game, but that's a 330-pound nose guard that's like 6'2" and 330-something pounds.
And he was really good too. I mean, not, to me, sometimes you think 330 and you just think, he's just going to stand up and lean on you, but he was really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He's a good player. He's not a slug. Yeah. Usually those guys that are that big and heavy can't move. He could definitely go. The kid next to him, I think, is number 5. He is probably one of the best defensive tackles we have ever played against here. He was about 6'1", I don't know, 6'1 and a half, and about 290 pounds or so. And I mean, really, really good. I actually talked to Coach Mason about him a little bit, and I think it may have been again, I'm not sure where he went. I think it may have been a grades issue from what Coach had said, but he went on to go play somewhere. It may have been a 2-year school, a junior college or something, but boy, that kid was spectacular. And then the other defensive end, in my opinion, was vastly under-recruited. He was like a state discus champion, I think. I think he might have won one of the years in discus or something, or was second place. Unbelievably explosive, big kid, long arms. I think was under-recruited because the kid on the other side got all the attention, but he ended up getting snagged by the national champion NAIA school, St. Francis, up there. I mean, they absolutely stole one on him. And then the kid standing in the back of it all was just the big eraser, number 6. Again, he was a junior in this film. I tried to look and see where he went to after this year, but I didn't really see anything on him. But every school that came in to recruit our kids, I told them, you better go up there and recruit that kid, because he was really a special player. Just really, really, really talented. And in my opinion, essentially Division I safety. He was so good. I mean, every film we had, he had essentially covered any mistake they would make, and he could play the run and the pass at the same time. He was exceptional. So the weakness of their team was probably then their defensive backs. They were good players, and they were fast and good athletes, but they really had just been pretty undisciplined in the cover 0 scheme, where with their eyes and stuff, they really had gotten at times on film a little bit nosy and been beaten on things that they should not get beaten on in cover 0. But again, they essentially refused to come out of it. The whole thing was they're going to put relentless pressure on you and essentially make you either throw the ball quick because of the pressure, and throw shorter passes their kids can defend easier, or make you throw low percent balls. And that's a big part of this cover 0 style you're going to see from these guys. But the hard part, to go back then, that we talked to our kids about in the scouting report here, is a team that's this talented runs a defense like this because they are going to force you into playing one-on-one matchups. That's what they're trying to do. They want to play you not 11 on 11. They're going to play you one-on-one, and they believe that they're going to win a higher percent of the one-on-one matchups on every given play, and they're going to beat you because of that. And it's a really hard system to go against because that's not how we play offense normally. We do a lot of, combination blocks and all kinds of stuff like that. And playing against these guys, it made me really nervous because we likely weren't going to get a double team block at any point in time during this night. And the way it works out is we really don't. They end up playing this kind of essentially the 6-1 that you saw Center Grove use against us way back when we first started this deal here.
That's kind of one of the unfortunate things about this is we kind of, I won't say we made our own bed, but this game was on TV and this particular structure shows up for us a lot now because of what Michigan City did to us in this game.
Yeah. Now the thing is, you've got to have the horses to do it. Obviously Center Grove, that's not a problem. They've got more than enough horses to do something like this. We've had a few teams try to replicate this against us, and they don't have the horses. And when you can't win the majority of the one-on-one matchups, you end up just getting pounded because you play almost right into our hands in that regard. But we've had some teams try to replicate this before, and it's been hit or miss, but we have practiced it a little bit, like I said, in this week, maybe not to the extreme that we get, but we've done something at least close to it. So they come out like this, and again, their personnel is a major problem for us. We knew it was going to be a major problem for us. The positives of this here, they left their big Division I kid who was a senior over Kyle, who at the time in this game was a junior. And so those two pretty much cancel each other out. Cotterman ends up kind of settling in and playing a really nice game here as the game goes on at right guard for us. And, the big kid really probably has the upper hand in this game early against him. And then occasionally we're going to have to use Austin to block him, which Austin's going to be a win for us most times anyway. He was a great player at center for us there. Noah, who at this game is a sophomore, is going to draw really what I thought was their best defensive lineman, and that ends up being a big win for them. They put their best kid over our most inexperienced player, and Noah really struggles in this game, especially early on, which also, by the way, was part of the plan too, which I'll get to in a second. But Noah really struggles early on in this game. And then Jacob goes against their other really high-end defensive end kid, and really those guys cancel each other out. Jacob plays pretty well in this game. So when he's charged with blocking him, I think that was kind of a cancellation as well. So up front, we've at least got a couple of ties, and then we've got a couple of honestly losses in there, and then we've got probably a win in there. So up front, it was probably one of the shakier games I think that I've gone into as a coach, not knowing how well we're going to be able to do against these guys, essentially blocking them one-on-one the entire night. That was just, again, not what we do, and it was a huge concern for me. That then couples into how fresh they were. So the one thing that we knew is they were not in very good shape, especially the big guys in the middle. They had really struggled. They were a little bit like us. They hadn't played very many games into 4 quarters that year. I think only like a couple. And they really had melted down in games, even early on, had struggled to keep their level of play up to the dominant. I mean, when they were on and they were fresh, I'm not sure if I've seen a defense that was as dominant as theirs. I mean, I think the game before us in the regional championship game, I think they held the team to negative yards rushing and like under 100 yards total in a regional championship. I think, and they had done that to a couple teams that year where, you look at their stat line and it's like, can that be right that they held these guys to negative 20 yards rushing? That doesn't even make sense. It was wild. So when those guys were fresh and really could play, I mean, they were borderline unblockable. Um, and so we had to kind of weather that storm a little bit. And we told the kids and warned them ahead of time, look, when you play teams like this, you're going to have plays where you get nothing or you get negative. It's going to happen. It's not going to be the games that we're used to where our worst carry of the night is 3 yards. There's going to be negatives, zeros, sacks. But you've got to keep chipping away because every play, essentially, teams like this, they're rolling the dice that you can't find the crack or the seam in the defense fast enough before they can swarm you. And if you can, there's really no help. And those 3-yarders or 1-yarders or 0-yarders, when you find that crack in the defense, they become 20s and 30s and 40s. So it really was just keeping our kids into the game mentally enough and trying to keep them positive enough that we could get them tired enough to the point where those things would start to happen more frequently. The other part of this game that I think was interesting was, again, I put a lot of time into every game, obviously, but I remember having a conversation with the athletic director, Al Cooper, before this game and the week leading up to it. And I came in and him and I kind of did our debriefing on Monday. And he said, what do you think? He said, these guys are really, really good. And I said, Al, you're not going to probably believe this, but I said, and I pulled a little piece of loose leaf paper that was folded up out of my pocket, and it had a bunch of scribbles on it, and a bunch of diagrams on it, a bunch of words and plays and stuff like that on there. It's just kind of like my brain and my thoughts poured out on one piece of paper. And he goes, what in the world is all that? And I said, look, this is about 15 plays total that we're going to run in this game that are going to help us win. I said, that's it. I said, we don't have more than that. I said, and I've never, ever said this before, and this is the real heartbreaker about the early part of this game here. I said 7 of these 15 plays that I'm going to show you here are guaranteed touchdowns whenever I want to call it. It's worth 6 points. Like I've said many a times on this that you can't manufacture points. I don't really believe in that necessarily. This was a game where, based on some of the lack of discipline that they had shown, I had 7 plays on that sheet of paper of the 15 I'd written down and had all these different scribbles and scrabbles on there. And I told him, I said, whenever I call this, it's worth 6. I mean, there are at least 35 points on this piece of paper anytime that we want to call them. And he said, there's no way that that's possible. And I told him, I said, Al, I'm not kidding. I said, if we just pitch the ball and catch it and execute, this is worth at least 5 touchdowns, upwards of 7. It could be that many. And
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
As this game goes on, I mean, because I was aware of the list, quote unquote, as this game goes on and we call, a few of those and we don't hit them and we miss them, the old acid reflux is really starting to get cranked up here towards the end of this first half.
Yeah, I was going to follow that up with exactly what you said as we went through the film because, I don't – a lot of people probably don't know, I haven't said it yet, but I don't keep a call sheet or anything like that. So as I have a lot of these things in my head, this is one of the few games I kept that little piece of paper in my pocket just to remind me of what the plays were. So as we went through them, my hope was after we called them and scored a touchdown, I could just literally scratch it off the list and go to the next one later. The negative part here is really what you just said, my greatest fear. We don't execute these the way that we practice them at all. And I start going through that list of plays, essentially trying to manufacture points to get our mentality and our mood back up some. And it ends up going in the opposite fashion where I start scratching plays off because we blew it. And I'm looking at my list like, okay, well, I've already called 5 of these and we haven't done anything yet. Where are the points going to come from now? and we end up getting a couple of them. But yeah, the stress level started to really rise as this game went on, because we, for one of the very rare times, don't execute some of these kind of one-off plays, and boy, not good. Just not a good start.
So we're gonna motion here to start, and let's talk about this for a second, because this was a little bit of film study work here, and we don't get what we thought we'd get. As Riker comes across here, this is just kind of one of those things that as a coordinator you do just to kind of test them. I mean, this is a freeze. We're not going to run a play here, and we're going to get into jump off sides. But our question, like you said, cover zero. So he's got him. There's a guy standing about right here that has him, and then the corner has him. One of the things that we had seen on tape as we motion across here is sometimes they would bump this, and he would go here. And we thought if we can get him out of the box, that's awesome. And then you'd kind of see him roll up, and he would come play here instead. And we thought, well, if that's their plan for this week, that's going to be great, because we'd rather run it at 87 than we would at the sixth kid. But they don't do that.
Yeah,
they just leave 87 with him.
There was a lot of tape study that went to this one play call just for the first play of the game. So this was a big information gatherer, like you said. Number 6 was one of the best players we've probably ever played against, just in regards to overall productivity and just talent. That kid was really great. So, like you said, when teams motioned against them, what they had done normally, because they play cover zero, instead of making that kid chase the receiver that moved, they would do what a lot of teams actually will do, and they would just bump. And they would pass that guy off to the next nearest DB, which in their case is going to be the free safety, which is number 6. They would pass that guy off as he runs, and then number 6 would leave the box and go cover that guy. Now, if you lined up normally, they wouldn't do that. They would leave him in there, and he would never go anywhere. And so he would pretty much ruin most of your plays. So what we wanted to do was essentially test that again here. And one of the big plans for this week that honestly ends up getting shot right in the foot on play number 1, one of the big plans for the week is to motion our kids a ton. 1, to make them chase us and tire them out some. And then 2, every time we would do this, number 6 would leave the box, and we would get their best player away from the ball and away from Charlie and Zach. Again, they're really well coached. I think they probably had just assumed that with the way that our offense ran this year, he couldn't move. We didn't motion a lot, but we did do it, at least 3-4 times in every game. So it's something they had seen and probably prepared for. And literally right out of the gate, now the other thing too with this play is we do motion, and usually when we motion, we snap the ball somewhere during the motion. So we went and reset him here, and then essentially go with our hard count as he motions, which gets them to jump off sides. So we got the free 5, which was great, but we also at this point, even on play 1, realized okay, we're not going to outsmart him on that one, because there's no way that I think his name was like Marquand Hurt or something like that. There's no way he's leaving the box. And so that becomes a huge huge problem.
Well, I remember that conversation where, we get him to jump, which is great, but I remember going, well, he didn't leave the box, so Here we go.
Yeah. So that was not good. We had a couple of things built around that as well, with him leaving, but that all gets pretty much, like I said, shot right in the foot here on play number 1. So
here's a nice little wrinkle.
Yeah, this is one of the things that we put in for the week here. Again, we had a couple of guesses as to how they were going to play us, and this was a possibility. So we end up working out what is going to be a double team here, and we move Charlie up into the formation, which is a set that we have, use him as a lead blocker, and really what we're going to try to do here is just blast a hole right in the middle that they're giving us, because they play double twos or double three techniques on the inside quite a bit. They rarely ever covered your center up, because those two guys were such big space eaters, they just don't care. You know, that they can play essentially the A and the B gap. They're so big, or the safety's going to clean it all up. So our blocking schemes for the week, we essentially had two calls on our inside or outside zone. We had two calls, one of which allowed us to get a double team, and then Austin was going to go block number 6 if he got close enough. If he was too far away, then Austin wouldn't count him. So we had two different blocking combination calls in this game to make sure we got him taken care of. This is the ISO block then, where Charlie's going to go block him. You know, we end up with a decent play, but again, I mean, Cotterman's blocking a guy that's 90 pounds heavier than him, and honestly, he literally just throws Cotterman to the ground. I mean, there's nothing that's like technique wrong with this. This is just a big, strong, thick kid, I mean, using his strength to his advantage here. So we come back on
2nd and 4, 2nd and 3.
Yeah, we're second and short here. We come back on second and short and really run a gimme here right on the chains. And Zach overthrows this one by a lot, actually. He misses 2 people on this one. He's trying to throw it to Colby, and he throws it literally out of bounds. So what would have been a first down there and keeps us alive, we don't get that one on a really short chain throw. So we come back then on third and short here, and run inside zone, and they just make a essentially just a huge pig pile here. And the game kind of starts off a little bit like we thought. We're really struggling to move their kids up front. They're just so big. So we got them to jump off sides once. To me, this was okay. They had jumped a lot this season. They had been really undisciplined about staying on sides. So we've gone for these before. We have actually gone for 4th and shorts a lot in this particular season. So I
really wanted to go for this one personally.
Yeah.
I get why you didn't. I mean, those are just the conversations that happen.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this a little bit. You know, my advice, quote unquote, my opinion was, I mean, it's 4th and maybe a foot. And if we can't get a foot, we don't deserve to win anyway. Is kind of my general philosophy on it. I remember this was a long conversation before you decide to punt.
In hindsight, it probably ended up being the better thing to do, because we don't run the ball for anything here in the opening quarter. I mean, I think we had we came out of this quarter with 1 yard rushing. I mean, It was really bad. We were not good. So yeah, we try to get them to jump. They don't jump. Call a timeout. Bring the punt team out there, and one of the. Well, actually, that was the worst drive of the season for us on the opening drive, honestly.
Very, very rare that we don't convert 1st and 5. Very, very, very rare.
I would say I actually don't remember in my 7 years a time that we haven't ever converted that.
So we're going to punt here, and I want to talk about kind of some scheme stuff here for a second. So I really like this structure. I call it spread shield. You know, one of the real challenges in general in punting, similar to offense, I guess, is that really at the end of the day, you have 10 blockers and they have 11 guys. So you're always a guy short because he can't block anybody because he's got to kick the ball. So by doing this, you know, we have 6 blockers in here. But then we also we send 4 guys out. It's kind of the same philosophy of spread offense in general. So if you cover all 4 of those outside guys, these 2 here and these 2 here, that's 4. And you have a returner, that's 5. You can only have 6 in here, and we're basically 6 on 6, right? So that's good. But the problem becomes when this happens. And now they have 7, and that's what we're going to get right here. So, we have a few kind of auto checks here. Situationally, this is one of them. And honestly, this is about as good of a look as we've ever had at it, and we don't do it. So our kids know this, and when they get the situation, they automatically check, and we basically run our little rocket screen down here. And that is always on. That's not a call from me. That's something that our kids know to run it. And then, I mean, this is QB2. I mean, he ends up being QB1 in the state championship game this year, but it's on him. He's got the option. And this is as perfect of a setup as it gets. And he chooses not to throw it. This is the best look we've ever had at it. And we probably, if he does throw this, we've probably got a ton here. Yeah. I get, came back over, he's like, look, I wasn't super comfortable with it. It's early. I didn't want to make a mistake. Totally get it. I mean, that's what happens when you give the kids the keys of the car. They're the ones out there playing, and they're the ones making the decisions, not me. And that's fine. So I wasn't mad at him necessarily, but just, I don't think our folks understand, our fans understand that this is part of one of a few things that are part of our plan in the event we get, they want to take an extra hat and walk down here. So,
yeah, that's missed opportunity number 2 already, and we're 4 plays into the game.
Right. I mean, we're probably easily across midfield here, if not scoring, if we throw this ball right here.
Yeah,
and that's what it's there for.
Uncharacteristically, and it's not a discredit to Michigan City. They were an absolutely spectacular football team. And some of it, they probably forced us into a couple of these things, but it's about as poor of execution as we've had across the board in an opening quarter of a game in my time here. Outside of a couple of, the Snyder game was not good and whatever, but the game that we won, I got to be honest, I am really surprised that we kept the troops calm enough to rally back and battle in this one, because our first quarter was as bad as we have played in a game that we ended up winning in my 7 years. I mean, we really just did not come out and play well or play very sharp. And really, we'd had a great week of practice, which was the odd part. I really felt good about how we had practiced this week, but we don't execute well in, really any phase of the game, to be quite honest here, early on.
So let's talk about their offense a little bit. Quarterback is a really tough kid.
Yeah.
Tailback is pretty small, but also really, really tough kid. In my opinion, 1 or 2 pretty good receivers here. Their line was big. I mean, and then just like the other side of the ball. I mean, boy, did we face some big challenges here.
Yeah. So their offense, it was very similar to ours, except for, where our identity play is inside zone. They hang their hat on power, and I'm gonna tell you what, especially as an offensive line guy. There were almost times I remember watching this film where I kind of had to refocus myself, because I enjoyed watching them run power so much, so well, that I forgot I was supposed to be breaking down game tape, and it's like, oh, okay, let me go back a few plays, because I'm just watching them run power, and just maul people with it, and it's such a great looking play. That was one thing that I had a lot of respect for them on is, boy, I mean, they hung their hat on a couple things in the run game, man. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was very similar to us, where what's coming. They don't care that what's coming, and you just have to find a way to be physically tougher and execute better than they can at stopping power. And I mean, they just ran it down teams' throats this year. Their offensive line was really big. It doesn't look like maybe what we watched there in Valpo or Center Grove a little bit earlier, but this is a legit 5A school. I mean, they're not a 6A school like those two really are. But these guys were, they were minimum 240, 250, 260 across the board. They were very well coached. A little bit of an older bunch. They had a couple pretty solid seniors in this grouping here. Tight end was a pretty big kid as well that they didn't throw the ball to a whole lot. They hadn't used him much in the passing game, but he had been a really good blocker for them, which helps out with their power scheme, the way they do things. Like you said, a couple receivers that were pretty good. Nothing absolutely out of this world, but really good receivers that ran nice routes.
I like this kid a lot.
Yeah, their slots were pretty solid. Quarterback was an undersized kid, but a really good player, like you said, just tough, gritty. You could almost see his leadership quality on film, which is always, dangerous when you've got a quarterback that he really charges, the people around him up. You could tell he was really the leader of that group. And then for me, I thought, quite frankly, one of the most undervalued kids that we've ever played against. Their running back was absolutely spectacular. He was shorter. He was low to the ground, but I'm going to tell you what, the strength he displayed on film was unbelievable. And he was quick, fast, really had good vision. He was absolutely tremendous. I can't remember where he ended up committing to, but I remember we went to the All-State meeting, and his stats were really good anyway. I think he would have probably made it on his stats alone. But when it was time to speak about him and the quarterback, I'm going to tell you what, boy, I put my name on the table for both of them. They were both exceptional players. That running back he was really good. I think, again, leading up to this game in the playoffs, he'd run for – the week before this, ran for like the high 200s. The week before that, he ran for the high 200s in the first half. He was exceptional. And again, one of those kids that you could just tell, he was just tough. Like, you run power, you got to be a tough running back. And he was a little bit of a smaller kid. But, oh, man, he would just every time slam it up in there, make something happen, slam it up in there, make something happen. And then once he got the edges on you, it was pretty much over with. So their personnel, I felt like defensively we matched up against them significantly better than we did offensively. We also made a couple major changes this week that pan out for us. But
let's talk about one of those right here, right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about the week and this is probably one of the better things that we've done, honestly, with this young man in this position here.
Yeah, so this is another game where I think you guys are starting to realize how much time, and you're probably not even getting into a fraction of the time, but, we've been going now for 45 minutes here, and we've only watched one series, but the amount of stuff that goes into these games is, again, a fraction of that.
I'm gonna roll a couple here while we're talking.
Well, you're gonna get to the pick here, but
yep.
So it had been one of my major concerns throughout the year that we weren't. Well, here, let me talk about that real quick, and then I'll go back to Matt. So
okay.
The other thing with their offense, with the power, their passing game then was a little bit the opposite of their running game. Their passing game had tons of different route combinations, lots of bells and whistles to it. And they did some RPO stuff in there as well. So you're going to see us in this game. We're already doing it right now as the frame's frozen, but our goal, no one had done this against them really. Our goal was to pre-snap move to the extreme in this game. and give their quarterback multiple pictures so that he could not really target in on where we were going to be, and mess with their RPO game, and just the sheer volume of things that they were trying to accomplish. We didn't feel like they could be efficient enough at all of the different things in the passing game to be able to beat us in the air like that with as much confusion as we can cause. So the bigger part was keeping him in the pocket because he had killed people with his legs. We wanted him to throw the ball and throw it from the pocket because he was shorter. It was going to be a lot harder for him to make throws against our tall front with their tall offensive line. He had really, really struggled to throw the ball over the middle of the field. So we really wanted to take away the clarity on the perimeter from our corners and our Dragon and Buck players, which are Maxon and Cade, and essentially not give him a clear picture to the outside and make him throw the ball in the middle of the field. He had made a lot of mistakes going over the middle, and we were honestly trying to funnel his throws into the middle of the field because we felt like he was either struggling to see or those aren't the routes that he really wanted, and they were like a second or third route, and he had not made good decisions there. And I think that really plays to our advantage as it goes on here in this game. But yeah, I mean, we practiced a ton of different passing routes in this week here that they had shown, and you know, they almost don't repeat them. There were a couple that were go-tos, but we ended up picking one off here in a second from hiding our coverage. He essentially throws one right into our chest when we sink and drop. But I'll jump back while you play the tape here, and I'll talk a little bit about Matt. So, you know, one of the jobs as a head coach, and I'm actually, this is another one of this playoff run here, I'm actually coordinating both sides of the ball. But I just really was not overall happy with some of the development from our defensive line position throughout the year. And we had tried a lot of different kids and given tons and tons of people the opportunity to earn that spot. And we really I just thought we were underachieving, and we just weren't developing that third key player we needed to be an elite level of defense this season. And it was hurting us a lot. So, you know, the weeks go by and I thought we were outside of Zionsville earlier. I thought we were talented enough to continue to try to get a couple of these guys to become the answer, and that it wouldn't hurt our defense enough around those players that it would cost us a game. So when I turned the film on for this one, it was pretty obvious that we weren't going to sneak by anymore with a piece of the puzzle not being up to standard. And you know, no one had truthfully come up with any solutions to the problem yet. And I've done this a couple of times in my career where there's a couple things that I see when I evaluate our players every week that spark my interest to use them in an out-of-the-box way. And a big credit to our kids that they never bat an eye when these things happen. You know, I've moved running backs to nose guard, and all-state linebackers that have the school sack record, I've moved them to defensive end before, and all kinds of stuff. So Matt had been a great player for us. He played for us as a freshman, and he got hurt. Then started as a sophomore early in the season at tight end and had been a backup linebacker. And then throughout the year had been a tight end in a slot for us on offense. This is his sophomore year here. And he's a good athlete. He's a big, long kid. He really is, especially at this point in time, is just a more slender version of kind of Kyle's build. Not the same player at this stage of their career, obviously, but his body type reminded me a lot of Kyle. And like I said, we just weren't getting the job done and developing that spot. So I pitched this idea to the coaches and just said, look, if it works, it could be huge for us. If it doesn't work, we're no worse off than we are right now. We don't have a third guy that can help us win games. It's worth a shot. You know, we've got nothing else to lose here. We need a third defensive lineman to step up, or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And so I pulled Matt. Thankfully, it was a Saturday game. I pulled Matt into the office on Monday and just said, look, man, here's the deal. you're not even going to practice offense this week, essentially. You're going to go with Coach Horan, with a couple of the other guys, and you are going to essentially do D-line drills all day long at practice to get you up to speed here and see if this is something that's possible. I said, I need your best effort. If it's good, then you're going to have the chance to win a starting job for us on defense. Because on offense, he was just rotating at this point, essentially, based
tight end, yeah.
based on game plan. How much was our tight end going to be in the game plan? If it's a lot, then Matt started. If it wasn't, then he was kind of a backup at slot and wing. So I said, this is your shot to really solidify yourself with a starting job. And, if it's not good, then, hey, we gave it a shot. So what? We're no better or no worse off, but we think that you can do it, essentially. And, he just, yes, sir, coach, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. Just all I ask is that, you give me as much practice time as we can possibly get so that I can get good at this. Cause I want to play, I want to be good, et cetera. So, early on in the week, he really struggled with it because he just had never played it before. But I would say around that Thursday practice, when we went out there in pro pads on Thursday, you started to really see it start to kind of click for him some. And I will tell you what, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but in my opinion, without making that move, I'm not sure. I think we probably could have won this game, but we probably are going to struggle a lot more to Decatur Central. This was probably one of the things that really gets us to the state championship and helps us win. We may not have won this game. I mean, Matt plays so exceptionally well in this game, especially for them then wanting to run away from Kyle as much as they can. Not having a kid that ended up playing to his quality or caliber on that other side, it probably would have crippled us in this game, and we may not have won. So it ends up being huge. And then you fast forward down the road even further. He's a Division I recruit now at defensive end and tight end. And, without rolling the dice here and thinking outside the box, he might not even be a Division I recruit. At tight end possibly, but we don't use tight ends that often. So he really would have probably never popped up on people's radar. And this goes from not playing defensive line to all of a sudden having two of the performances of your life, and you're picking up Division I offers the following year as a junior at the position. So really funny how it works out. But yeah, this was one of those major pieces where, boy, we take a gamble and it pays off big. And it's just about having a vision for kids and what their talents are.
So here's the pick.
It's a good job by Max. And what we call this here, it's called not hugging the flat. We want them to throw the ball short here. So what they're trying to do is get an open window behind this flat route to make an easy throw for the yards they want. And one thing I coach our DBs on is to not go squeeze or not hug that short route, because you're going to open up the huge window behind you. They expect us to do that, and he throws it really right into Maxon's chest here, because we just kind of sink into that window and play really disciplined football here and get a big play out of this. So it's a huge play.
We've talked long enough about some of this stuff, but when you get in the off season and you have some time to really sit down and think, and you think about philosophical stuff, I know we've had some conversations, really, really down in the weeds a little bit about like just offensive philosophy and quarterback play and reading defenses. And, there's a million different ways to do it. And, I won't say everybody, but, there's those 3 or 4 big systems out there of, if your quarterback sees this, he has to do this. I know the R4 thing is super popular right now. I've coached an R4 system for a long time, but I always come back to this play as kind of the rule breaker for a lot of those quote unquote strict rules, because, when you get, that's terrible. When you get curl flat, which is a really common coaching concept, on offense, a lot of this is a pre-snap decision where you see where he is and you see what his demeanor is, and you go, look, man, there's no way that dude's going to be in the hook curl, right?
No.
And based on how we look right here, we're probably playing cover zero anyway. Pre-snap,
Yeah.
like look at Colby's demeanor. His eyes are on a receiver. We're probably cover one. He's probably covering him. Hook's probably got the wing. And then post snap, your entire picture changes. And you're thinking, this is a no doubter right here. Like, this is the easiest curl route in the history of the world. But the walk up outside backer literally runs flat right underneath the curl. And now he falls down, but it wouldn't have mattered if he fell down or not.
Yeah.
This is
still a pick.
Yeah, so this is just one of those things, that I look at this like, I'm gonna talk for an hour about this. I don't want to do that, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that there aren't hard, fast rules. Like, there's no be all, end all, catch all system that has concrete rules that just works all the time. Offense isn't a series of if then statements.
Well,
it can be, but there are always exceptions. Exceptions.
If there were, those teams would score endlessly because you could never have a solution to the problems they provide. But there isn't. Those people that sell their things online would want you to believe that. You want to pay them $100 or $200 or $400 to, have their system. It's like, it really comes down to how you coach the kids and how simple you can make it for them. Those guys are really, truthfully, just scam artists. I mean, they're just selling you a bunch of lines on a paper that don't work anyway. And if you can't teach your Jimmy, or your Joe how to execute things properly as it is, it all comes back down to coaching anyway. I mean, the lines on the paper have never mattered all that much. I just said that at the start of this game. There were 7 plays I had 100% confidence in were given touchdowns. The lines on the paper, the film study, the setup, all those things. It was a gimme, and then we don't execute, and so they're worthless. Now I could sell that to people for $25 online, and someone would buy it because it looks great, but it didn't work for us. It got us 0 yards and 0 points. At the end of the day, it comes down to what you can relate to your kids and what they can execute. And if they can't execute what you're trying to do, you're worthless. And so is your system.
And that's kind of, my overall point here. And you did a lot better job summing that up, because it would have taken me 25 minutes to drive around before I finally got to the summit of Mount. What's your point? Listen, like, and I wasn't going down that road to be critical of Michigan City's guys. We know those guys really well. They're great coaches, great friends. And I'm not saying like what they're doing is wrong offensively necessarily, but there is no system. And you and I have talked about this a little bit on here. We've talked about it a lot privately. Like, these gurus just honk me off so much, and they're just ripping people off. And I think one of the great things that we've done is to open the hood on our program and do this stuff for free. We'll answer any question you want. Don't care. You want to talk about anything? Fine, we'll do it. And you see that, like you said, it's about how you coach the kids. Like, there's no perfect play. There's no perfect scheme. There's no perfect system. And that was my original point, was that play, I think, in my opinion, breaks a lot of the rules of what should happen systemically for an offense. That's not what should happen to curl flat. And that's not the pre-snap read for curl flat. And
I think one thing you notice too is, if you've watched this series and stuff, our offense is not incredibly flashy. We're going to run inside zone and make you stop it. And now here you are at the semi-state level, and we're playing Michigan City, who is going to run power, and they're going to make you stop it. Then we're going to go play in this particular year. We're going to go play Decatur, and they're going to run buck sweep and make you stop it. Center Grove's going to run buck sweep and belly and make you stop it. It really comes down to, and I've said this before, do you want to win games, and have an identity as an offense and put your kids in a position to be successful? Or do you want to sell books and e-clinics and rip
Yeah.
people off? Because if I wanted to do that with the success that we've had, believe me, I could. I mean, people would buy something that I sold because we've won so much that they would buy it just because of that. But I'm not in the business of that. You know,
Yeah.
we've won games. The book that I would sell would be very bland. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be very, very bland. It would probably be about 150 pages on inside and outside zone, and then some short little tidbits on some throws maybe here and there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of culture, a lot of program development, a lot of strength and conditioning. But you're not going to get a bunch of lines on a paper. But we've got 3 state championships, a runner-up finish, and we've lost 4 games in 7 years. Would you rather have that? Or would you rather be going 2-7, 3-6, maybe 5-5 on a good year if you can play a couple teams that are down, and sell an ebook for $100? I think I'd rather take the championships and the wins. So yeah, there is no answer to any of this. It comes down to what your kids are, and that's what all these people that are trying to rip people off. It comes down to your players, and it comes down to how you coach them, and it's that simple.
Speaking of coming down to your players, I talked in the Valpo game about why we run kickoff the way we do. And there's some scheme stuff that goes into it, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just got dudes. And in this particular instance, young Mr. Hook on this kickoff here is, I mean, just the effort from him is always off the charts. But watch him on this. I mean, because he just runs through about 4 blocks.
Yeah, they're double wedged too. This was tough.
Yep. Yeah, this is not an easy kick return to stop. Double wedge.
They also forced you to kick it to the running back, which also was a little bit concerning because the ball in his hands was lethal. They also have their dudes out there. You can see they got the starting defensive man, a lineman or two, bunch of the starting linemen are out there in the wedge. The safeties out there. I mean, again, you get to this level, no one's out there playing the JV guys. I mean, you're going against the best of the best. Again, another reason why I've got a ton of respect for that program. I mean, Coach Mason he's been good everywhere he's been and really resurrected this program up and has got them to a really elite level. And man, I mean, that you're taking their best shot every play, which is awesome. I mean, that's what games at this level should be. And that's what makes it, high stakes and high stress and really fun to be a part of.
Here it comes.
Yeah, here we go. And it's so simple, and they ran it just so well. Here it comes the other direction. You can tell the strength of this kid. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't look like much, but this kid was flat out put together. I mean, that's Avon grabbing him right in the collar, and he runs through it. This kid was special. He was really a special player. There's power.
Again?
I actually think they run power the entire series. I don't even think, or maybe it's the next series, but
there it is again.
They essentially run power like 11 times in a row. Now, Matt is still trying to settle in a little bit here, and we're gonna get him on the sideline and make a couple adjustments with him here shortly, and we're gonna make adjustments to this play as well. But again, I mean, there's nothing incredible about what they're doing outside of the execution, the physicality, and they're just going to keep coming. Are you, again, is Coach Mason going to sell a bunch of ebooks for $400 online about running one back power? Probably not, but I guarantee he doesn't care about that because it got his team to back-to-back semi-state games, and they win because they have an identity, they have a philosophy, they stand behind that, the kids stand behind that, and they just out-execute you, and they come after you.
Here's a shocker. Here's power.
Yeah. I mean, they're ripping us with it right now. Yep. It's not easy to stop, especially with that kid in the backfield that can make something out of nothing. That's a good change of pace play for them right there. I actually really like that play a lot. That little kind of that lead sweep there where he goes behind the quarterback on a flat course to really gain momentum. I really like this play. Now we get good penetration here and kind of blow it up, but that's a really good play. The other thing too I was going to mention about this, you're not going to see it. You might, if you kind of had a keen eye, you might have seen it a second ago. But the other thing about these guys that was really difficult is, honestly, for about the first time all year, we had to go against a team that ran their back out of the backfield on passes a lot and got into a bunch of 5-man routes. And we really had to practice that a ton. We had not seen that much on the season. So, yeah. It's not as easy as you would think, by the way, especially when, again, it's that kid that's running the routes from the backfield. It makes it even more difficult.
Power.
Yep. That's one.
Another example. There's Luke Ely, one of the strongest kids that's probably ever been in our program.
Yeah, just can't get him. Now, this is when we catch them in a shift here. They go into a formation that we wanted to move to. You can see a shift late, and it messes their blocking assignments up, and we actually get really good penetration and a big stop right here. You know, the kids were, again, just because they're moving the ball down the field on us right now does not mean the kids weren't prepared. I mean, this is a really, really good football team, and they pretty much ran their best play right down our throat and punched us in the mouth. It happens. I mean, that's just the way it is sometimes. You know, you're not going to get 3 and outs all the time, especially when you're playing at this particular level. So, you know, the kids are mentally into the plan. We've just got to execute things better.
I'll tell you what, there's a couple of these that they just miss in this game, and this is one. I think this is a little kind of a buck sweep type look up front. I think it's RPO.
Yeah, he sails this one.
Yep. But they had it.
This one has to come up over kind of the middle of the field there, and he had struggled to hit a lot of these. You can see we don't protect the middle of the field at all. We don't have anybody even there. And you can, I mean, as tall as all, like in the middle there, you've got Matt at over 6'3", Kyle 6'4", Cade 6'3", Maxon 6'2". The linebackers in here at the time are about 6 foot or taller, you know. And I think that quarterback was like 5'8" or 9 maybe. I mean, it's really hard for him to throw the ball in the middle of the field, and he's got to sail that one to even get it there, and he just throws it too high. We don't even have somebody in the middle of the field. We're not even protecting it down here. So good job forcing a field goal on that drive and keeping it 7-3.
Little chip shot there. Little change here for us, personnel-wise, from what we usually do. There's our returner right there. I've talked a little bit about this. I talk about it a lot in the clinic circuit. You know, we're not just going to put our returner where our returner goes because that's the returner spot. We actually put Riker back here because the scouting report on him was he very rarely kicked it between the 10 and the 0. It was either 5 yards deep or it was between the 15 and the 15 or shorter. So I thought we really had a chance to get one, and we moved Colby up. Just a little adjustment we made there. So here we go. Haven't been on the field in offense in a long time. Yep, there's one. There's one.
Here's one of the home run balls. This is essentially a slot hitch and go. So you're going to see really what we want here is Colby, and we get what we want. Again, they have been really undisciplined with their eyes. So we get there's the hitch. Zach chokes it down really quick here because we get beat so bad on offensive line, and Colby wins this route here in a second by about 5+ yards. And all we would have to do is just, again, a lot of people don't run slot hitch and goes. But this was a huge opportunity for us. Riker wins as well. I mean, we've got both slots wide open for 6, and we don't block, and then Zach chokes it down. Here's the second one. So I just exhausted one of them. This was the second home run ball. So this was something that we had done quite a bit with Charlie, where we flare him out to essentially a quad set, and their guys, a couple teams had done this to them that were the spread teams that we had seen on film, and they didn't pass this off very well. They got their wires crossed a lot.
Like this?
And essentially one of the guys over the trip side would always trigger the quads guy, sometimes 2. I mean, it was always 1, but sometimes 2 would go with him and leave their guy go. So the read on this play was essentially supposed to be, look at the guy over Riker first, and because he was about 90% of the time the one that would trigger, and go cover the flare. So look at Riker first, and then if he's not the guy, it will be the guy over Colby that triggers. And so then Colby becomes the throw. Zach does the exact opposite of that, throws the ball quick to Colby for a first down. You know, he throws it high, but Colby goes up and tries to make a catch on this thing here. But Riker is absolutely uncovered for 6 points. So I have now called 2 of my 7 plays in consecutive plays, and we have gotten 6 yards off of them instead of
14 points.
6 points from the one and 6 points from the other. I mean, we've literally blown it on the last 2. This was another bad read. This ball immediately, we did this route all week long. This ball should go to the arrow right now. We run a little bit of just kind of a sub concept. Zach's primary read is the flat anyway. He doesn't look at the flat at all. And Colby's not even looking because Colby's a decoy. Like, he's not supposed to even get the ball here. He's literally just a clearing route for the other 2 guys. So, yeah, we really come out and just don't execute. Again, you want to talk about selling your books and selling your film and stuff like that. You know, none of those things will be present on a clinic tape. I can tell you that. That's not good football by the Dragons at all. Yeah, we're just not playing sharp. This is a good play, though.
Kind of flash series. We talked about the inverted gear look here.
You can tell they're running the ball away from Kyle a pretty fair amount, though. A lot of their stuff has gone out to the right. When they've gone to Kyle's side, they have really struggled. I mean, they're struggling with him right now, too, you can see. But we've actually got Matt on the sideline right now. We've changed our personnel up, and we're really just trying to walk him through what's going on. So Austin bumps back out to the 4 technique here, and we bring Big Horse back in the middle. But, yeah, I mean, this was not the ideal setup for us, but we're really just trying to walk Matt through some of the stuff. CJ's struggling at linebacker as well. We're going to bring Hockett in here in a second. He ends up playing really well. You can see a lot of movement from us again here. Get some good pressure on him, and then make another pretty nice play here defensively. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, this is basically an adjuster blitz here, where we have to bump personnel because of the trips over here. So Brody, who's typically our adjuster, is here. This is kind of one of our trips checks here, but this ends up being Max in here. on 2nd and long. Again, you kind of see the movement here, and Flushing and Keel's able to make a shoestring here. So 3rd and long, which I think is where we felt pretty good. I mean, in general you do, but I think in this situation especially, we felt pretty good about our situation in 3rd and long.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we wanted to be. We get a little bit of a push off here, and this kid makes a juggling catch. You know, Brody just can't play the ball, get a little bit of a push off, and he just loses his balance. And they essentially, I mean, we cover it pretty well. It's a good pass off up top. We're playing our version of kind of that razor look up here. We get a really nice pass off on this switch, and Brody tries to relocate. We get a little push off and lose our balance, and yeah, I mean, it happens. It's a good pass off, though. I mean, we've got it all covered. Brody right there reconnects. There's your push off. Again, I think in 7 years I've seen offensive pass interference called once. They're just not going to call it. It isn't going to happen.
There's power on the one, and we're behind.
Right there, they score.
Yep.
So the interesting part about this, I had never thought about this until this game was over and someone from the media said something to me about it. It really had never occurred to me. This is week 14. We had never been losing in a game up to this point at all during the season. So for every second of football that we had played in 2018, we had never been behind. The game was either tied or we were winning. And that, I never had thought about that till the game was over, but it really is one of the craziest stats I think I've ever heard. In this season, we were only behind our opponents for a total of 5 minutes of game clock, which is just wild. But yeah, that's the first time we've ever been down. So we're not playing real well on offense, obviously. We come back here and just try to settle it in and get back to our bread and butter stuff and try to test their guys up front a little bit here again and come back and just want to get some yards. Quite frankly, I'm trying to get a first down here on offense because we haven't done that yet. So we're just trying to move the chains and get something positive going. We only get a couple on that one. We only get 3 there. Come back to this ISO version here and really just get stacked up in the middle for essentially nothing again. Now we're in 3rd and 6, which we haven't operated very well on this stuff at all. So on this one we go with another one of my automatic touchdowns. And I'm going to tell you what, I really start at this point in the game to think like you said, oh boy, that list in my pocket is starting to grow really small here. Zach literally drops the ball. We get both. This is Blake at the top of the screen. But we get both of these wide receivers absolutely wide open on this bubble and go. And here's the thing about it, too. We didn't even have to give them the window dressing. Like, we haven't even run bubble. That was the thing. The tape said that their eye discipline was so poor that you don't even have to set them up. Look at that. There's 2 guys that hard charge 1. You know, we didn't even have to set this up. It was literally I can call this whenever I want it, and it is worth 6 points. I don't have to set it up. It doesn't have to be from a certain spot of the field. It's not a red zone call. It's not a hash call. I can call it anytime, any place, and it's worth 6, and then Zach drops the ball, and we don't get it. So that one's gone. I mean, we're hurting. Matter of fact, I took the quarter right there and didn't even want to punt because I thought things are going so bad we might just get it blocked. So I just let the quarter run out.
That's a really good punt from Eric.
Huge punt.
A lot better than the last one. Barely got across midfield. That's a really good punt right there. You'll notice we kind of got him out of, we showed that little rocket screen, and we kind of got them out of the pressure here a little bit, which is nice. They were bringing 7, and now they're only bringing 4. All right, so down 10-7. First series of second quarter here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this too. You can see the running back coming in the backfield here now, but a lot of this now becomes about response. It's a good throw by this kid.
Yep, nice little post.
Again, yeah, I mean, we're not protecting the middle of the field here. I mean, you can see Maxon is playing up there real tight. He should sink a little bit more, but we kind of wanted this. You can see that ball kind of even tails down at the last second. We really, we wanted to throw it there. We're going to get a couple interceptions off of it here shortly.
Not to be honest with you,
comes power.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not feeling great right now. Down 10-7 there on the 30-yard line. I do not feel very good.
I think the hardest part about this too is a couple of our players were just stunned for the first time I think ever. Just looked like, one or two just looked like zombies, and it's like guys, we can't have already lost you here for the night because things haven't gone well at the start. There's a lot of football to still be played here, but a couple of our guys really for the first time were almost just unresponsive to some of that stuff. And that as a coach is not easy to deal with or handle.
Power again.
Yeah. We're doing a much better job here on this now of fitting it up. We've at least gotten to talk to our guys here and we're doing a significantly better job at stopping it.
Oh boy. Got a break here.
Again, missed opportunities go both ways, by the way. It's not like, oh, whoa, are the Dragons. Boy, they miss a clear shot at a touchdown on this. Cade gets too nosy, and this wing runs right by him essentially on wide pop, and he just kind of just short-arming balls, just a hair overthrown, but he kind of short-arms it. And, yeah, it's not like we're just complaining about one side. This is a huge missed opportunity for them right here to go up 17-7.
That's probably really, truthfully, 2 touchdowns off the board.
Quite frankly, if they hit this one, I think, like I just said, some of our players that were almost like walking dead at this point. At 17-7, you're looking at a potential shutdown. As much as hard as our kids play and stuff, boy, that's not where we want to be here. Again,
Another good look, another good opportunity there.
Yeah. Again, this one's over the middle, and he just kind of floats it. It's like I said, I'm not knocking the kid, but at his height, he's got to throw the ball higher to release it against so many big kids, and his throws over the middle had always just been high. So we've got it covered okay, but yeah, he just sails it. So
a little bit out of that kicker's range. I'm sure that was a tough call for Coach Mason. On whether to kick that or not from the 21, basically. But we survived. We get the ball back, and finally something good's going to happen here in a minute.
Yeah, we come back with our motion again here and just make them do a couple of things and again, see if it's going to be their plan that 6 isn't going to go anywhere, which it obviously at this point is. So we get that kid to move again. That one probably should have been a pull.
There's another one.
We overthrow this one, which was another one of our one-offs. Blake on this kid was a great matchup for us here. We get beat really bad up front again at guard, so Zach gets some pressure late on this one, but he also throws it way too far. So we don't block, and then we don't execute, and this is another one of my one-off plays where we throw it 10 yards over Blake's head almost, and 23 is attacking that post, so we miss it. So I literally I don't think that in this situation this is probably a great call. You've now heard me essentially say that we have run through 4 or 5 of my guaranteed touchdowns at this point, and the thought in my head is right now there's 2 things in my head. One, can we literally miss on all 7 of them? Is it possible? And right now, the answer would be yes, by the way. Yes, it is. 2 is if we don't manufacture points now, we're going to lose these kids. And there's a mental side to this play call here where I really thought if they came back out on offense and they drove down and got points, and it was late second quarter, as bad as we have played at a couple of spots, that we can't win this game. And so I really just said, you know what? I got to go for this again. I'm going to exhaust another one of them. And this is the fifth or sixth one that we've gone with now that is literally this wide open. And we finally hit one. Again, no setup, no nothing. This is rocket and go with no previous rocket screens at all. And they're really undisciplined, and we beat them for a 70-yard touchdown here and pump some life back into the kids. Again, I don't think that it's not a great play call because it works. I said early on, like, every one of the ones that we've called have worked. We just didn't execute, and so I look like this is kind of the deal. Like, you look like a bad play caller, like people in the stands, all those fans that most of which don't know a whole lot, are sitting there like, what are we doing? Like, this is terrible. Like, what kind of a plan is this? Well, you just watch 5 touchdowns not be scored, 4 touchdowns not be scored because we don't execute stuff. That was, again, me really trying to manufacture points in a desperate time. If that one right there doesn't go, I really think that we lose this game. I really do. We were in that bad a shape at that stage mentally, especially on offense in a couple spots, that I think if we would have blown that opportunity, one, I didn't have enough one-off calls left to probably get us out of a hole, and we were in trouble. We were in a lot of trouble. That ended up being an absolutely critical play call and touchdown for us right there.
So I want to talk a little bit here about double wedge. So double wedge is really good if you can run it. Double wedge return I'm talking about here. But you've got a couple choices to make, especially when you put big bodies up front. And this is the defensive end. That's one of the linemen. You've really got 2 choices. One is you play them up here to guard against onside, and then you run the risk of not getting deep enough and not being in your spot, and we run by you, which is what you saw happen on the first kickoff. Or choice 2 is you back those guys up a little bit, and now you start to abandon the 50 a little bit and run the risk of onside kick. And after we kick off the first time, here's your old pal, Coach West, right there. I thought we had an onside, and this was a little bit of information gathering here. We'd repped it. We thought, there's situations where especially these 2 bigger guys would almost go back here. So I'm kind of here evaluating this. Here's another example where they really don't truly get the wedge set the way they want. We're able to get 3 guys down there and make a nice tackle.
Another good run by them. Again, at Kyle's side, though, they're having to bounce this thing. It's not as good.
Mm-hmm.
We should have had this tackle and we missed the tackle, but running at him was it's a really good job by Matt Brown this play, actually, with his hands and stuff. But
there's a slant again.
We just about get our fingertips on this one here. Oh. Cade's just a little bit too far in there. He just doesn't drop enough, or we're right in that window again. Really good job by Matt Brown here on this play. Gets a little collision on this tackle as this tackle kind of veer blocks down, and then takes this wing and just stuffs him right into the hole. It's a good job.
There's Kyle to clean it up from the backside.
Here comes a little play action.
This is one that they like a lot. Kind of this little drive route, like a short square in here.
It's especially good too when they combine it with these pulls because it gets your linebackers out of that window. It's a good little play. With as much as they run power too, you gotta respect it.
So 3rd and long again.
Oh.
Our little Ohio blitz here.
It's good pressure. We just go too far past the quarterback. Kind of goes too far by the guy up top, but it's good pressure. Good pass off too. Running back comes out of the backfield. We pick him up with our backers. Really nice job. Everything's well covered here.
Maxing from depth here.
Big play. It's a great job by Avon. This is one of the things we'd worked on all week long. Again, that running back out of the backfield is lethal because usually our linebackers are in underneath pass coverage, but when the running back comes out of the backfield, they've got other jobs that have to happen. And it's a really good job by Avon on this play of sticking with this kid, buying time until we can release and get him extra help on that guy. But big stop on 4th and 5. Really well done. Really disciplined. That's a really nice job. So here comes Charlie for the 2nd time, and we overthrow another touchdown, which is just – let's just go to the next play. I'm starting – I can feel my heart rate going up just reliving this.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, this was not a real pleasant gathering of the offensive coaches in the locker room here after this half.
We do a good job up front on this play here. It's really the first time we get clean blocks across the board, but you can see number 5 just throw us on the ground and get on Charlie's legs. But, Charlie makes a really big-time Charlie run here and breaks a couple leg tackles, which is again, what we needed him to do. One thing we did in this game I didn't mention earlier as well was, telling the kids about embracing the one-on-one matchups. We opened our splits up a lot to just kind of embrace the fact that we're going to be one-on-one the whole night and try to open up some of those running lanes a little bit better. Again, what you saw, though, as the game went on that I got really upset with and kept constantly harping on, and they just kept – some of the linemen kept going back into their shell is what I call it, and just, again, kind of going into their shell like a turtle and being zombies is they kept cutting their splits back down again like it was almost a safety net, and I kept having to constantly be on them about – you can't do that stuff. We also should get a pull read there, and we don't pull it.
Here comes quarterback zone.
Yeah.
Little missed block there.
We thought this was going to be a good play for us against cover 0 teams. Using your running back as a blocker gets you kind of the numbers at least back to even.
Outside zone ends up being a really nice play for us here in the second half too.
Yeah.
Kind of some confusion there between Colby and
Charlie needs to accelerate more on this, but I still have no idea why Zach doesn't go inside on this play. If he just is patient and goes inside of Charlie, we've got a really great play. Charlie's got to go a little bit faster to this block, but he also hesitates because Colby looks like he's going to crack that guy.
Yep.
So Charlie slowed down thinking Colby was going to block him, and then that play was just another missed opportunity and a total mess.
Yep, there's a free 5. That'll help.
Yeah. It's the best play of the night for us so far, really, is getting them to jump off sides.
Here comes the ISO again.
Yeah. They just make a big pig pile, and we just push this one through for a first down. So this then
nice. Go ahead.
This then is from the upset now, and then we run the quarterback lead sweep from this because we've been running the ISO from this. Same thing. If Zach just goes inside of Charlie, now this one's a lot cleaner. If Zach just goes inside of Charlie here, it's something we do literally right there inside of Jacob and Charlie. He's got a huge play, but he runs around Charlie and we get nothing out of it. We're not playing good football in a lot of different spots. We're not playing good football. You can see, some of what they did with number 6 is he's guessing a lot now, and he's going to guess wrong here later. We get a pull read on this one, and he's already kind of predetermined, and he's going for Zach here with the way their scheme is, and we're going to catch him here in a little bit. Now, if you pause this, so here's something interesting that happens. They're starting to get tired, which is helping us. We knew it was going to be a struggle. But number 5 rolls his ankle up and gets hurt here and has to come out of the game for a second. And that was one thing that was probably a little bit of a deficiency in their defense, was that if any of the starters came out of the game, the backup behind them was a significant drop-off, especially in the front 4. I mean, their front 4 were 4 absolute horses. They were 4 dudes. The first man in, though, was not of that caliber. And one of the things I had seen on film was when one of those guys got tired and had to take a break, or, one of them got hurt or whatever it might be, they really had a big drop-off at that position. And so as soon as 5 got hurt and had to come out of the game, I pretty much said on the headset, look, I don't care what we have in the passing game right now. We are going to run at this backup kid until 5 can come back, because now the matchup's getting our favor. We can win that one. And so we are essentially going to – Zach should run around to the left here but doesn't. But we are going to essentially run left until we hit our head on the goalpost here. And that, again, comes with, I think, being an observant coordinator and all that stuff. Is those are things that you have to see. We should have pulled this ball and we don't. Those are things that you have to see. A personnel change at a position, you've got to be into that. You have to see that happen. And yeah, we're going left again. There you can see the huge bubble we make on the left side comparatively to what we've been able to get against number 5. We get a really good little double team sunk in here and blow this kid off the ball, and this really makes the play. Again, and you don't want to ever –
There's your guess.
Yeah, and he guesses too. You don't ever want to see someone get hurt. But injuries happen, and studying the tape and knowing how injuries or fatigue impact the opponent is critical to your film study. And when number 5 went out, we had seen him come out a couple of times before, or number 90. When they came out of the game, the next kid in was nowhere near their caliber. And so we're going to attack that. It's not a game of niceties. No one's going to take it easy on anybody here. We found a weakness that we want to come after, and we're going to come after it until it's fixed by you. And 5's going to come back. He ends up being okay, thankfully. I mean, he's a nice kid, great player. You don't ever want to see someone get hurt, like I said. So he comes back in the game, which, even as the opposing head coach, is what you want to see. You don't want a kid to be injured. So, but in this moment, this was a big break for us because I had seen this on tape, and we're going to take advantage of it. I mean, we were not putting the ball in the air, and we were going to run at that smaller kid until we either ran out of downs or we scored, essentially.
Little Tiger Woods fist pump down here, which I've been known to do on occasion.
It's trademarked.
Yep. Little 35 birdie putt, 35-foot birdie roll right there. That's what that is.
Just lifts right in.
So 17.
I got a meeting coming up in about 5 or 6 minutes here with Coach Cooper. But as we get close to the end of the first half here,
well, let's just stop it right here, Coach.
Yeah,
we can pick it up here tomorrow.
The one thing about this game, again, it's not like it's complaints or something. We just talked about their missed opportunities as well. But I mean, boy, this was a game where those manufactured points early in that game, I think, changed the complex of this game in a major way. We really would have been the only team that could have probably forced them out of that comfort zone. I mean, if we hit half of those and have 21 more points on the board, they're probably going into halftime thinking we've got to either stop doing what we do and change this structure, or we're going to get blown out of the water here. And that's really where we wanted them to get with some of those one-off plays is, boy, if you can make them pay for these things, they either have to stop or you're just going to keep doing it to them. And they weren't going to allow that. So the sheer amount of missed opportunities, again, it's a great football team. I'm not sliding, but we played as poorly as we could have probably ever played in the half of this game. And you're right, I was really upset coming in the locker room with our performance in a couple of positions and the lack of response in a couple of our positions here. Defensively, we really haven't played bad football. I mean, we knew they were going to score. They were too good to not. I wouldn't have thought that right now where they are, they'll not score another point for the rest of the night. I wouldn't have thought that. We made some really nice adjustments at the half and stuff, but we went in the locker room here in a second. We're going to the locker room and we're going to be ahead, but I still just had this sinking feeling of like, I just had to run through all of the plays that I had that I knew were going to get us points. Now we've got to buckle down and grit and bear it and somehow win this game. And we have essentially proven for a whole half that we can't move the ball effectively at all. And so we've got to make some changes. It was truthfully one of the most frustrating first halves I've been a part of as a head coach. It was very trying. And I think to a lot of people that just see the final score that don't see the other things that go into this, think, New Pal's just a machine and all. Guys, we've got problems just like everybody else does. And sometimes our kids don't execute very well. Most of the times they do, and that's part of why we win. But there are some times where they're teenagers and they don't execute things well. And we're seeing some of that happen right now. Yeah, we're not inhuman. We're not a machine. We all, including myself, make plenty of mistakes. What I think we're best at is we don't often get ourselves into the compounding errors where it becomes a chain of catastrophic events. Thing A happens, and then all of a sudden the next thing is then, oh God, now thing B, now C, now D, now it's like, when are the dominoes going to stop knocking into each other? And this was one of the very few games in my career where, again, in a couple of spots, it just felt like we could not stop the chain reaction once it started and could not kind of, quote unquote, get that train back on the tracks and refocus. It was tough. The halftime conversation at this is extremely interesting in regards to some of those things as well. So we can get more into that tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know what you, I mean, if you want to chime in on some of the stuff in the first half, but again, like you said yesterday, in my opinion, was probably one of the best, especially doing both sides, best offense and defensive game plans that I've probably put together as far as tape study and all that. And it doesn't look like it. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, we'll talk about halftime tomorrow because I do want to talk about that next drive, the last drive for them, because that's a huge stop for us going into the locker room. But I'll briefly say this: there've only been a couple of situations in my time here where, you almost go in the locker room and, honestly, I won't say helpless is the right word, but boy, there's just not a lot of answers out there. And, Columbus East in 16 felt that way. I mean, any coach that's coached a team that can struggle from time to time has kind of had that feeling going into the locker room. And I almost felt that way. I was certainly relieved to walk out of there with a lead. But, same thing you're talking about, like, how can we manufacture points? Because I didn't feel like 17 was going to win it, and I didn't know until we got together and kind of had that conversation and hashed some of that stuff out, which we'll talk about. But immediately, as I walk off the sideline and walk through the parking lot to go back in the office, my thought is like, I don't know how we're going to find more points. And that was really concerning. And I've talked about this a little bit in one of the other games that we did, where for me, I'm starting to think about, ways to manufacture points in special teams. And, we probably can't fake a punt because they backed off of us. We blew our opportunity to fake the punt. We can't block them on kick return because I've got little guys out there and they've got a dude that goes to the Big Ten running right down the middle of the field. Can we onside one? Not a lot of great options, but I'm trying to find one. So we can talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. So you can head to your meeting here, but certainly wasn't a great feeling. So let's pick up here tomorrow with that last drive of the second half or of the first half, and then we'll talk about halftime.
Yep.
All right, Coach. All right. Well, we'll plan on seeing you on Monday. I said tomorrow, Saturday. So we'll see you on Monday morning.
All right. Sounds good.